memories of the lonesome times. Hey everybody, this is Ian from the Inciting Moment podcast, and here we are today to talk about some art.
Absolutely majestic.
Who else here is with me?
Hi, I'm Sam, and unfortunately, I have to go down to St. James Infirmary. So if they ask, I got the blues.
I'm James. I can't be clever with this, so I'm just here. Hi.
I'm Scott.
All right, come on. I mean, James is the clever one, so we're fucked.
Oh, no.
That's his contribution to the whole cast. He's the clever one that comes in with, like, the conversational red pills that nobody thought about.
Wonderful.
He's got, like, the 3 brain cells that actually work.
Mm-hmm. That's all he really needs, just 3. Well, to counteract that, not to toot my own horn, but electrifying intro.
Oh, yeah, lightning in a bottle.
Right. We have some sad news that originally I debated whether we wanted to or not because of just how unfortunate of circumstances revolve around it. But frankly, I have some strong words about the situation itself that I figured should be shared. And that situation is regarding the fatal shooting that occurred on the set of a recent film called Rust. I have no idea what the movie is about, and frankly, I don't think we will find out what it's about because production on it has halted indefinitely due to the fact that Alec Baldwin inadvertently shot the director of photography for the film, as well as injuring the director.
Yes. Now, a lot of details haven't fully been released to my knowledge, but from my understanding, Alec Baldwin himself is just as surprised as everyone else that this event occurred. As far as he was aware, he was given a prop gun filled with blanks and was not expecting to hurt anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine what he's going through at the moment, since he's technically the one who shot the guy. Or chick, my bad.
It was a woman, yes.
There were also, apparently, I read last night about it, that someone shouted, cold gun, as he handed it to Alec Baldwin.
Cold gun, now...
Which means it doesn't have live ammunition, so blanks or actual rounds. A hot gun, if I'm not mistaken, is a gun filled with blanks. Right, Ian?
Yes. And apparently, with some more details that came out regarding the situation, it turns out that this was only one example of just complete negligence during the production of the movie.
Really?
Yeah, apparently Rust is a kind of production that I haven't heard about in terms of, like, just how much chaos was going on and just poor management, really. The thing about it was, apparently, it was a movie that was trying to keep as small of a budget as possible, which right off the bat, I just want to say, whoever had the idea to hire Alec Baldwin to come on for such a small movie, bit of a stupid move right there, because he's already going to jack up the budget. Why you had to settle with him, I have no clue. But because of that, and how they are being overly conscious of the budget, they were actually starting to replace crew members with non-union, engineers and crew members. Basically people that can do the same job, but for half the price and not as many of the upsides to having, actual unionized members on set. And for the crew members that were not being replaced, they were constantly talking about how they do not feel safe because production was being rushed, precautions were not being taken, and as it turns out, when cold weapons were called in 2 other situations, turns out Alec Baldwin's stunt double was actually given cold weapons and was told, oh yeah, they're cold. However, they still discharged rounds. Granted, they were blanks, but the thing is is that you still need to be on top of that stuff, because blanks, even though they don't have an actual round, depending on how you are framing the scene and how you block the actors with these weapons, you still need to be careful because they can still fatally injure people.
No, blanks are very, well, I don't want to say very dangerous, but like with being mishandled, they very much can kill. Like, they're still loaded with gunpowder, regardless of whether or not they're supposed to be fatal.
Yeah, such as on the set of The Crow when a blank killed Brandon Lee.
And that was a situation that people have been bringing up as of recent. It's similar, but frankly, I find this to just be even worse. Not to so much downplay what happened with that, because that is equally as tragic, but with all the new details about how the production was already so catastrophic and mindless in terms of how they took precautions, all the signs were there for people in charge to say, you know what, we are not being careful enough. We are not having our cast members safe at all. They do not feel safe in the slightest. They are walking off set because of the conditions they're being put through. And yet, despite all of that, they still continued on with this negligent behavior.
It just sounds like a crazy situation either way. Like, I only really knew 3 things about this film. Obviously, we're not going to see it now, but I knew Alec Baldwin was in it. I think it's a Western.
It is a Western. I have the plot synopsis right in front of me.
And the only other thing I know is another actor, Jensen Ackles, was going to be in it as well, of Supernatural fame.
And now The Boys.
Is he in that yet?
Yeah, he's in season 3. Season 3's not out yet.
Okay.
It's supposed to be coming out either this year or next year.
But it didn't seem like that much of a high-profile film, unless we're all just completely blind, despite the fact that Alec Baldwin is in it. And now it's getting way more attention than I think even the studios want it to have. It's crazy. Like, what do you even do?
I normally don't say this about people's art, but just the entire management of this, from what's come out, it sounds like a lot of stupid decisions were made.
And this all added up.
Precisely. I feel very offended by, seeing all this happen because, oh, you know what? I don't think I've actually talked about this before. I wish it was under better circumstances, but I am a film school graduate. And in my time at film school, I was actually on a few sound stages helping out with other productions, sometimes as a sound mixer, sometimes as a production assistant and all that. One time, I was a assistant director to somebody that I'm not going to lie, to make a long story short. Little difficult to work with, but I did my best. Throughout the shoot, it was supposed to be a closed set, but because I had never seen one before or how that's set up, I don't know if it was competently closed off. The reason I bring this up is because the 2 actors that were in the film being shot, one of them was only in their boxers, and the other, for most of the scene, just wasn't wearing pants. I think it was in the first 20 minutes of the shoot where I noticed when they were waiting in between takes, these actors, primarily one of them who was, as I mentioned, only in their boxers, were sitting off to the side in these chairs, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, that really doesn't seem right. You're having your actors sit on the side, not fully clothed, with like 30 people walking around them for God knows how long today. Most of these shoots would sometimes go for like 7 to 8 hours. And then on top of that, they're not even wearing shoes. So for all we know, there might be a piece of equipment or little shards of something on the ground. I just kept thinking about this. I'm like, that's not right. I should probably ask if they're okay, or like if they're comfortable, if there's anything I can do. And I did. And I asked, hey, do you want me to go get your shoes? Do you want like your coats so that you're not sitting here only half clothed most of the time. And for some reason, the director took issue with me directly going to them and asking them and not going to him first, but I made it a priority. Whole can of worms that I'll just not really go into detail about. It was frustrating. But safety. Safety is something that I realized sometimes goes unnoticed and not considered all the time. Considering this was supposed to be a quote-unquote professional film, in the case of Rust, I will once again say this was incompetently handled and managed. That something like this could even happen on a movie like this.
I mean, I guess either way, like, this film is not being made. Like, all the work that people put in and all the stuff that people had to endure is now just kind of null and void, because, even if they try to pick this up again, it's going to go down as the movie where someone got shot.
I'm not even sure if Alec Baldwin would want to finish it. They would have to recast him.
That's what I mean. Like, even if they tried again, maybe like a few years later with a different cast, like, it's always going to have the stigma now.
There's no way that they can have the same people who are responsible for, like, making these decisions come back. They would have to find a completely new line of people that are actually proven to be mindful of this kind of stuff. Because, I mean, I was looking up how far back a lot of these safety precautions for firearms in, motion pictures are set up. And apparently they were set up all the way back in, like, the mid-'80s, somewhere between, like, 1986 or 87. So, I mean, how all these years later something like this happened, it's just uncalled for. Like, this just shouldn't happen on a film of this level, honestly. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of responsibility that goes into making sure that everything goes smoothly, and the fact that something like this slipped through the cracks, it just absolutely pisses me off.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just reading about the armorer who was in charge of the props, and a report says, well, she is inexperienced. This was her first big movie,
Okay.
it says. And this is a report. The inexperienced armorer in charge of weapons on set of Alec Baldwin's movie Rust had given a gun to an 11-year-old actress without checking properly for safety.
Wait, what? Why?
Gutierrez Reed's alleged misstep happened on the set of the upcoming Nicolas Cage film The Old Way and temporarily halted filming. She was reloading the gun on the ground where there were pebbles and stuff. One source told the outlet, "We didn't see her check it. We didn't know if something got in the barrel or not." Gutierrez Reed reportedly handed the gun to the child actress Ryan Kiera Armstrong, forcing concerned crew members to intervene, the report said. The gun was then checked for barrel obstruction, according to sources.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of mismanagement and people not, like, looking over their shoulders here. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Very. Very. So it's just like I'm saying. They didn't go with someone for a movie like this that has kind of been doing this for a while. They went with someone who's sort of new to it and inexperienced because they probably have a lower rate. Yeah, right. Honestly, if there are any future productions that involve using firearms, hopefully going forward, people will look at this and say, okay, so we need to make sure that we do better than that.
No, definitely. Mm-hmm. This is not the first time this happened, but this might be the most high-profile time it's happened.
Mm-hmm.
You can only look to the future. Speaking of the future.
Yes, speaking of the future, a slightly more optimistic future?
I wouldn't go that far.
Maybe?
Well, we'll discuss that.
Yeah. We're gonna go straight into our recommended film this week. One that I got some words about, both good but also kind of bad. But we'll go into that. Sammy Boy, Do you mind telling us what this film is and why you picked it?
This movie is the 2001 animation, obviously, anime movie called Metropolis, based off the manga of the same name, Metropolis, from, one second, I forgot his name. Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. Based on Osamu Tezuka's 1949 manga of the same name. And for those who don't know, Osamu Tezuka was the guy who did Astro Boy.
Mm-hmm.
The very basis of this movie is there's this almost like city state called Metropolis, in which it's a very futuristic city, which they have robots and whatnot. But while it is very technically advanced, the city has some problems of its own, mostly to do with political factions and the treatment of these robots. Now, I don't want to give too much away, but the very basis of it is this boy Kenichi goes to Metropolis with his uncle, who is a detective looking for a certain mad scientist who's known for illegal activities. And let's just say, chaos ensues. The wacky adventures in this futuristic city that has no sadness whatsoever. Definitely not a dark movie at all.
Oh no,
No, not at all.
very cheery,
I
happy
mean,
all
look,
the way.
it's the guy from, Astro Boy. Astro Boy, the guy with guns in his butt cheeks.
No.
He does.
There's no way this could be a reflection of the problems of today's societies and society structures. No way. No, I fucking love this movie. It's a very good movie, but this is, that's the basis of it. We'll continue with further discussion, but I'm interested in what you guys think before I start ranting.
Right. Well, Sam, what was the reason that of all movies you went with this one?
I guess you could say it's a dream fulfilled. Like I discussed in the last episode, how I didn't even know if this movie really existed until a bud of mine named Paul's like, "Hey man, you want to watch this movie called Metropolis?" I'm like, "Metropolis? It sounds familiar. What the hell is that about?" Then I saw the cover. I'm like, "Wait, man, that chick looks familiar." I'm like, "Holy shit!" That's that movie I watched when I was 5 years old in my older brother Mitch's room. That thing, that's real. That was a thing. So it was really cool experiencing the waking up of this dream into a reality that is Metropolis.
Yeah, when you talked about that last episode, I was sitting there going, God damn, that's actually kind of poetic.
Oh yeah, you really.
I had my moments.
You're sitting here going, oh God, I thought it was a dream all this time, and here it is in front of me.
Still like a dream like double O.
What a
And also,
cool-
I just want to share it with you guys to prove even further it exists.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, really, when you think about it, because there's quite a few big names involved with the production of this movie, mainly with like producers and animators, to where it's just like this is kind of an anime enthusiast's dream. It has a surprisingly large budget for in comparison to most other anime films. The animation itself is it's superb.
It's very good.
Especially in character expression. And it's just adapting, work from essentially what many people considered to be the Walt Disney of anime, Osamu Tezuka, and stuff like that. I mean, it's just impressive to see that something like this was made. And if I, had to elaborate on my general thoughts, overall, I enjoyed my time thoroughly with this. The eye candy of this film. No, you know what? Not even eye candy. Because I don't even think that does it justice. No, the art of this film is fantastic. There is not just attention to detail, there is craftsmanship, if I had to put a word to it, in this film, especially with the background illustrations. Like I mentioned earlier, one of my absolute favorite parts of this, which is something that in like a lot of anime shows I'm rather critical of, the character animation, mainly with like their facial expressions and how they actually visually communicate what they're feeling or thinking, is amazing. And just the style of it all with like the art design and the full picture, really. It just comes together. It's visually stimulating. It is just moving in areas, you know, where you just want to just sit on one of these frames of like these cityscapes or like these areas that characters are standing in, and you want to frame it. It's the same kind of stuff that I like about Studio Ghibli films, you know. You want it to be like a painting on your wall sometimes, with just how much clear effort went into just this one shot. And that carries out throughout the whole film, honestly. Now, sadly, for as much as I do like the art direction, this is one of those films, kind of like referencing one of our previous mega sessions, actually. The same thing that I thought about The Shadow, which is, I like it, but I wish it was better. But I will get into the specifics of some of my, I guess, drawbacks to the narrative of the film, and a little bit in the characters too. But everybody else, what are your thoughts?
First off, the way that they, just for general thoughts, obviously, the way they rendered the cityscape, the way that they set up the lore of how this whole world functions and how this whole place is built, and the character designs in general, it really draws you in. Like, these character designs are very colorful, very cartoony. It's like you're watching Popeye characters, you know, walking around and doing their thing. But that's juxtaposed so nicely with, like, the seedy underbelly, like all the weird shit that's going on behind closed doors, and like not even closed doors, like you have these cutesy, again, Popeye characters walking around, but then suddenly they pull out an AK-47 and just gun down robots in the middle of crowded streets, and like you're hit with the most fascinating tone I've ever really seen in a film. Of just like you kind of watch on the end of your seat wondering what's going to happen next. What are they going to do? Everything is always in motion, but it's not frantic. You know what I mean? I very much enjoyed this movie. In fact, just due to the aesthetics alone, I took a bit of initiative upon myself, and also for this recording, even though we may not talk about it in depth, watched a film I believe the manga itself was slightly inspired by, the 1927 black and white silent film Metropolis. That was I believe, a German film.
Yes.
And there are some parallels that I might get into when we get deeper under the surface.
It is my great shame to admit that I have not watched the original Metropolis. I meant to, but with my busy schedule, I forgot.
I do not blame you. That is a 2.5 hour long film.
But I have done a little research on it, so I may be able to contribute when you do talk about that section.
All right. We'll compare notes when we get in there then. But I think that's all I can really say without getting into specific moments. So, Scott, why don't you take it away with your thoughts?
I like this movie. I like it a lot. I thought a lot of the characters were really well acted, especially Rock. He was my favorite.
Rock can die in a hole.
What do you mean?
He's something else.
Rock is great.
Now, unfortunately, I couldn't really see all of the details you were talking about, Ian, because I watched it on Anime Haven in really
you watched it on a
quality
what?
Anime Haven.
Oh, yeah, that is the problem with the movie. There are no streaming services that offer, easy to access and also, legal means of watching this movie, which, if I could say something, is a bit of a crime.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't find the dub of this film. I assume most of you watched that.
I watched it dubbed.
I had to watch it subbed.
I heard Steve Bloom's dulcet tones.
Yeah, that was surreal to hear the voice actor for Spike in there as an old man.
I like Shunsaku a lot. I loved Duke Red, Big Nose Man. He was also
Okay.
one of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing about the because it's from the uh, mangaka of Astro Boy. Some of the characters are very characterized. You know what I mean?
This is a good movie for
Yeah.
noses. A very
Yes.
good movie
If
for
you-
noses.
If you have a thing for
yeah.
noses, by all means, check this out. You'll have a blast.
You could stand under the Red Duke's nose as an umbrella. That's how powerful it is.
I'd be surprised if he isn't the Vulture in whatever future version of Spider-Man we get in like 5 years.
He can smell the water table during a drought.
Oh, jeez.
That's how
Oh,
that's how
man.
insane he is.
That could also be a bludgeoning weapon when you really look at it.
I really enjoyed, because I have a lot of time in these kind of movies discerning certain characters, and I really have a problem with that in this. I could actually tell who was who.
Fair.
And the story was really good too. Had a very solid beginning, middle, and end, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think. I like the
Okay.
characters. That was my favorite part of this movie.
Well, if I had to start anywhere, since now we can transition into the nitty-gritty, obviously I had said before that the art direction and everything, just full circle. No problems with that, honestly.
Absolutely.
Not with the character designs, not with the background illustrations, not with how the city's laid out. Everything just looks superb and has this excellent sense of texture and atmosphere, especially when you transition from the upper levels with the polished cityscape, and then when you go further down into the underbelly of the city where things get a little more gritty and worn down and stuff like that. Very nice change of pace. The world building is really neat in terms of where robots have their place in areas.
Quite literally, if they leave, they get shot.
Yes.
Leave their zone.
Yes. I do have one question for you fellas. How did you guys feel about the soundtrack of the film? Because this was a movie that I think the soundtrack is deserving of a little bit of discussion.
I thought I loved it. I love the period pieces of
Oh,
St.
yeah.
James
Right.
Infirmary, and I can't remember the song at the end.
The
Oh, I Can't Stop Loving You?
I can't stop loving. I loved it.
Is that the song that played at the very end when everything went to shit?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I like that one. Yeah, that was,
Obviously, we'll go into scenes like that with
Right,
spoilers,
right,
but
right.
yes,
I was
that is
just-
the song that plays.
okay. I just wanted to make sure.
No, this
Yeah.
is a film that's very much based in like the 1920s culture, and all the like jazzy tunes and stuff. It really sets the atmosphere. I mean, you're seeing like a Zeppelin flying overhead, and you're just hearing the big band going, and it gets you going, man.
Oh, yeah. Specifically, from what I was able to find, they were mainly going for a New Orleans style
I could see
jazz.
It's very
pieces.
apparent.
Yes, very apparent. And if people have a love for that specific flavor of jazz, you'll have a fun time with this. One of my personal favorite pieces was the track that plays when those like little firefighter robots start showing up and they're putting out the flames from the laboratory fire.
Then they start building themselves into a bigger robot.
Yeah, they assemble
yes.
the Fire Voltron.
Yes.
That's another thing I loved about this movie was the robot designs.
Oh yeah, they're pretty cool.
Oh yeah, they're more than just like the blocky silver robots that you see so often. They're very circular, very different.
No, it's just like after I watched the movie and I had some time to like do some side work and all that, I had the soundtrack going and multiple times actually. And whenever it got to the track where it played during that scene with the firefighter robots, the beat of the track, I just couldn't help but imagine the robots like just bopping around and like bumping down the stairs as they're going like, okay, let's go. It's a good piece, and frankly, a lot of the soundtrack work was very fitting, and once again, just further enforced the atmosphere of the city. But I think if I had to kind of go into why for as much as I did like this movie, I have issues with it. It's really two big reasons, and by the end of it, when I was just kind of feeling like, man, something just doesn't feel right. Like, I'm enjoying my time, but certain moments, they just don't feel like they're hitting as hard. And then I finally sort of realized it, and the two things that I guess I had problems with was the focus of the story, and oddly enough, the character, I don't want to say interactions, I think the dynamics, the relationships and stuff like that. And where I say the focus of the story, I think a lot of it comes down to asking, well, what is the story about? Because there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of plot threads in this movie that some of them I don't think really should have been there. I feel that if it was willed down to 2 or 3 of the plot threads, I think it would have made for a more concise story. For one thing, considering how one of our protagonists, being the robot, the robotic girl, Tima, and how she's all over the place on like posters and promotional material for the movie, if you look it up, I was going in thinking, oh, so the heart of the movie is going to be between her and the other protagonist, Kenichi. And I guess I was just surprised when I found that, no, not really. In fact, what I felt this movie was lacking were more scenes, or even like longer scenes, that actually build their sense of friendship and supposed love and stuff like that. Because
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought that their relationship and their chemistry, I think, needed more time. I think it needed to be developed more.
It's funny you say
Because
that.
by the end of it, I mean, the ending of the film, which we'll go into in a little bit, it's definitely the most emotional part of the movie, and I felt something in that, but I didn't think it hit as hard as it should have. And when I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, I think they needed more scenes together, and they needed more meaningful scenes to build this sense of connection, because frankly, by the end of it, that's what I felt was lacking.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I didn't really get that. I feel like the time they spent together kind of justified all of the emotions they were throwing out between one another, and I can't get into specifics without getting into spoilers, especially near the ending. But no, it's interesting you took that away, because I think that it did kind of accomplish what you say it did.
Yeah.
But I don't want to dominate the conversation. Do you guys have anything else to add to that thought?
So I can see where you're coming from, especially with the mixing of ideas of what this movie is about, message wise. And I think this mostly comes into play because this movie does veer off from the original manga quite a bit.
And
And
way
That's what
more
I
from the original 20s movie.
Yeah, let's make that clear. Frankly, aside from a few similar plot points that the movie incorporates, this Metropolis and the 1927 Metropolis are related only in name and general concept.
Yes, but Sam, you were making a point.
I mean, granted, I did not watch the original Metropolis, and please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, James.
Yes.
I feel like it has quite a bit more in common with the movie, the original 1927 movie, than the original manga did. by a fuck ton. As in, like, it has more in common with the original 1920 movie than, like I said, the manga itself did. And I think this really has more to do with the themes in the movie, especially with that of classism.
Yeah. Because that was one big thing that I not only read about online, but also discussed in a film history class I had in college, where that was a big theme in the original 1927 film.
You know, it's kind of funny. Now that we're talking about comparing the films, one thing I noticed that kind of surprised me is the anime film kind of has the entirety of the 1927 film in a microcosm of just a couple scenes.
From what I've seen, it does. And granted, it makes sense, especially since it's a 1920s movie, that it would have something to do with classism, because it's 1927 in Germany. That's when the Weimar Republic's in full swing. So, I mean, classes and whatnot, and social classes were, still, and they still are a big topic, but especially back then. And so seeing it translated into the movie makes me think, into the newer 2001 animated film, makes me think much more of the 1927 movie than the mangaka itself.
Oh yeah, the original film is about... I mean, it's also about a large city, but essentially it focuses mostly on the underbelly of the city, which you see very briefly in this film as well, where it's all about the workers kind of living day to day in just horrible living conditions. Like, they make parallels of them throwing away their bones and blood for the machines to keep running. There's even imagery of, like, the worker, like, foremans ushering people in like droves to literally throw themselves into the gears of the machines just to grease them up. And they're treated, weirdly enough, like how the robots are treated in this one, despite the fact there's only one robot in the original, and that is where Tima's place takes place. Although she is much more antagonistic in this one. Or in that one, rather, not this one. Like, from the beginning.
Yeah, we see this. We vividly. We're going probably good part to say, hey, spoilers, motherfuckers. Watch this movie.
Like,
Yeah.
Right now.
The
We'll
scene
wait.
where
We'll wait for you to watch this movie. We'll give them an hour and a half, 2 hours.
The scene where they meet all the human workers, and then, like, they stage their worker rebellion just to get gunned down. That's the movie.
By
that's
the
the
upper
27
classes.
movie, like, in its entirety.
Heck, there's even, I guess you could say, there's even class warfare in between the robots and the humans in the 2001 movie, because they both live in the squalor, and they're not allowed to go beyond their respective zones. And just like the robots are gunned down if they leave their zone, the same thing happens to the human workers who are revolting, led by a revolutionary named Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of similarities there, a lot of parallel lines.
Now, while this differs, the 1927 one, the robot woman, whose name is Maria, not Tima, is the one inciting them to take up arms, and she's doing it purely to cause chaos. Like, there's a lot of references to the false prophet from the Bible, the Whore of Babylon.
Mm-hmm. Which is also referenced in the 2001 movie, where he says, the ziggurat is very similar to the Tower of Babylon.
Yes, that's a very prevalent theme in both. But no, going back to the anime film, it differs quite a bit after that point. The robots are not human. They can be rebuilt when they're destroyed, and that kind of... I don't know, they don't dive as deep into that, I feel.
Yeah, the funniest thing is we see the most violent acts against the robots. We see them being torn apart by bullets, as though they don't matter. As though them spilling their quote-unquote blood/oil is not something that should be censored. Because they're not human, which is a big theme, not only in just the movie general, but especially the character Rock.
Oh, Rock is crazy.
Yeah,
we have to talk about Rock specifically.
Yeah, let's dive a little bit into that little shithead.
Rock is awesome. He's my favorite character in this film.
For all the worst reasons.
Yes.
So
He is a character I love to hate.
a little background: the Rock is the adopted son of the Red Duke, which is essentially the main protagonist of the film, and is treated like shit. Like the Red Duke basically does say to him, "You are not my son. Do not call me father. I picked you up after the war. You are an orphan. You work for me. That's it." When it was treated almost exactly as the robots are. But when Rock is treated like this, he almost takes it. The way the Rock, I think what Rock represents is humanity's worst, because he is the epitome of the Marduk Party, which is this political faction and terrorist organization for the most part, who see these robots as lesser, as things to be destroyed when they get out of line, as the bodies to grease the wheels in the machine, and that's it. And they will mercilessly hunt down these robots. Yeah, he's unrepenting, he's unforgivable, and holy shit, he does not stop.
Oh, no, he never stops. He is 100% dead set on being the most unpleasant person in this film.
I appreciate he's so, like, tunnel visioned toward his goal that he himself is almost like a machine. Like, the way he moves, the way he interacts with people, it's all... He says, like, he's fighting for humanity. Well, he's not fighting for humanity, but, like, he clearly looks down on the robots, but he basically is one.
Oh, he's cold. He never sympathizes or considers, the needs of others or, like, how they're impacted. No, he's dead set on just doing whatever the hell he wants and completing his mission.
And he has the most fascinating character trait I've ever seen in a minion, which is more loyal to his superior than his superior wants him to be.
Yeah, honestly.
Because it'd be a disservice to talk about Rock without also explaining his connection to Tima.
Yeah, so Tima being a remade version of the Red Duke's daughter, originally called Tima.
His biological daughter.
Yes. So, obviously, spoiler alert, Red Duke ended up making this robot Tima in order to sit at the throne on the top of Ziggurat to control basically the super weapon that was on top of Ziggurat. Again, spoilers. Big ones, just little ones. And basically what he originally made her to do was to be this impartial judge for the nations of the world that will basically zap any countries that get out of line and cause violence. But the problem with it is, after what she experiences throughout the film of humans being awful to robots, of humans fighting each other, betraying each other, especially from Rock being the worst example.
Oh, absolutely.
When it is her time to sit upon the throne, she does not do it in impartialness, but almost human-like, but only the worst part of it. What she learned from Rock, what she learned from the Red Duke, what she learned from the revolutionaries getting massacred in the movie. She takes that as a lesson that humanity should be destroyed, because it is. It's already destroying itself and everything around it. It is the natural thing to do.
And I love
and so when
that
she sits upon this throne of Babel, she decides it becomes humanity's judge, jury, and executioner, and deems them unworthy for life, and thus begins to basically fire off all the nukes, or attempts to.
Yeah. I appreciate the moment that kicks that off is her essentially meeting her god, her creator, the one that, said, this is why you exist. And he's like, oh yeah, you're this tool that will create an age of, like, prosperity for man. And all she wanted to be was a person.
Mm-hmm. Throughout the film, she'd ask herself, who is she? What is she?
That's why she gets along with Kenichi. He's like the only one, when his uncle kind of, they don't get a lot of time together, but they're the only ones that treat her like their own individual. Even her dad, who has these grand plans for her, is basically seeing her as a tool, a key to be turned.
And where Rock represents the worst in humanity, in terms of, like, the relations with the robots and in general, it's really Kenichi and his uncle that represent the best in it, because they always treat the robots as though they're fellows, as they're equals, throughout the entire film, as though they're individuals. And you see that in their interactions with these robots, because they bring out almost like the best in the robot, especially with the junk bot. And that in the end is what saves the day, because he attempts to bring out the best in Tima when the shit gets down. He's the one that takes her from that chair, takes her from being the executioner of mankind.
No, that's why I feel I have to disagree with your sentiment, Ian, on how they didn't have enough time together. It's more due to the fact that Kenichi so openly treats Tima like a person, while everyone else treats her as an object or something to be put forward on a pedestal more than just an individual. That really sells their relationship.
No, I get that, but the thing is that I see that more as like good character work on the part of Tima and how her place in the story is, rather than like the actual work on the relationship itself.
I suppose that's fair. Really? It could be given more time.
Yeah, I just think with how much focus was on all other things going on, some of it could have been condensed or cut out entirely so that there's more time for their stuff to breathe,
Mm-hmm. There's a lot, it's a Metal Gear Solid 2. There's a lot going on.
Thinking about it, I think I did like the dynamic between Kenichi's uncle and Mr. Robo Inspector Detector Piro.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be honest, I called him Nick Valentine for the entire watch. Dude, I did not remember his name.
Oh, did you?
I can't believe you.
Yeah.
But Scott, any final thoughts?
I agree with you, Sam.
I'm pretty agreeable. What can I say?
Yeah. On which topic, though?
Just the fact that there are a lot of the Tower of Babel references. And I don't know anything about the original film, so I'm basically just going off what you guys are saying.
I'm going to be honest. I probably wasted my time with it. It is way longer than it needs to be. It takes a long time to get going, and it really has barely anything to do with this film.
Gotcha. I mean, I didn't think so, because one is a German film, the other is Japanese manga.
Yeah.
I think a lot of okay, you know what? That's a debate for later.
I lost my train of thought.
So, would you guys... real quick, actually, before we finish off here and just do our final thoughts, have you all seen the after credits scene?
Oh, no.
No,
this is something...
There's an after credits?
Sam brought up to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, it took me a little bit of research, believe it or not, but not every version of the movie has the after credit image. And what the after credit image is just an old fashioned picture, an old timey picture of a workshop called Tima and Kenichi's workshop, and it's a picture of the supplies being delivered to this workshop, and you see both Kenichi and Tima. So it's almost like a little extra happy ending.
Right, because actually, why don't we go into that? We were referencing, especially with the intro I did, we were referencing the ending of the film a little bit. In the climax, especially when Tima actually sits on the ziggurat and is essentially going to go through with wiping out humanity.
Can't blame her after looking through our browser history.
Yeah, that's a lot of ooh. No, but Kenichi attempts to literally rip her off the seat to the ziggurat, and it culminates in this moment where and I was kind of at this point going like, okay, I know we have to have this sequence, but not quite sure what the reasoning for it is. Tima is attacking Kenichi. Right. She is in full annihilation mode, perhaps because human, I want to wipe out humans, I'm going to kill you now. But they're on these steel beams outside of the ziggurat, and the whole place is going down because Rock sets the place to blow up sky high.
His final act.
Yes, his final act.
What a legend.
He is so loyal to this father that robots can't kill him. He has to.
Yeah, that's the thing. He his only problem is that his father is not the one control of the ziggurat. Like, it's crazy.
He's a yandere.
Oh yeah. Anyway, you
Oh,
were saying.
you know what? When you put it like that, that is what he is. No, but Rock, he sets the place to self-destruct. It starts blowing up sky high, and this is, of course, when the film hits easily one of its most memorable parts, and probably when the emotional highs are at their peak, I will say, when the track "I Can't Stop Loving You" begins playing. By good old Ray Charles.
Surprisingly,
And all
not
that.
on the original soundtrack of the movie. Fun little fact.
No! And I was like, why not?
I know, right? Probably
I guess
copyright shit.
licensing, I don't know. It is a very famous song.
Mm-hmm.
But it all culminates where Tima's about to fall off the steel beams, and I think you guys can agree with me. She essentially starts to remember the good in humanity that she got through Kenichi.
Specifically because he's going out of his way to rescue her.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I guess you could even say it's maybe not even the good, but the identity of Tima, of herself, that was formed when she originally had that initial conversation with Kenichi, and they discussed, I am, the very basics of the language, and saying, I am you, I am, all that stuff. It is, as you said, Ian, it is full circle. And the fact that there's a happy ending to that after she's fucking eviscerated by the Great Fall.
Yeah, that was the thing that then follows. The wire holding her rips, and she initially falls to her death. And the film essentially ends with Kenichi and his uncle looking through the wreckage of the building. And while his uncle leaves Japan, Kenichi stays behind with his robot buddies, which I assume was to still look for Tima, because there's some hope that she's still alive.
They do bring him parts, and I really like that scene. And it's still a good ending, despite, the additional super happy ending at the end, because it is humans and robots working together to fix this in-between. It's them coming together to make this, like, almost ideal. And plus, that scene with her falling is, like, the pinnacle of what I remember when I was in that room. Is her, like, half robot. I was scared. I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
I could definitely see how that could, like, jump at you. As you said you were pretty young when you watched that the first time.
Mm-hmm.
That's some powerful imagery.
Yeah, it really is.
There's just only so much I can say, Sam. That is actually kind of poetic. That a scene like that is what you remember. And actually, thankfully, I wasn't entirely spoiled on everything, but when I was looking up just some screenshots of the film to get an idea of what its visual identity was, one of the first screenshots I saw was of Tima with her half-human, half-robot face, and just the character within it, the expression of it. I'm like, I think I'm going to fully enjoy this. And again, the fact that initially you thought this was all a dream you had, and then to find out that it is an actual real film that you get to experience all over again, it's actually kind of a moving idea.
Yeah, well, I would like to thank you all for joining me on my very long 15, 20 year in the making, insightful moment.
Well, thank you for bringing us along for the ride.
Honestly, yeah, this is, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of makes this little discussion here a little special, frankly.
And it will only get better with the next insightful moment. Speaking of which, I believe it's someone else's turn to share their.
Yes, it is mine.
I'm assuming it's full recommendations, right? Like.
Yeah. Let's make that real clear. Recommendations all around.
Watch Metropolis,
please watch.
Motherfuckers. Crazy enough, the studio that worked on it, Madhouse, I think, or Mad Dog, also worked on shit like Red Line and a whole bunch of other movies.
Oh, they're also responsible for Trigun.
Yeah.
Another piece of anime media that I would highly recommend people check out. Maybe one of these days, since it's a shorter show, I'd be more than happy to discuss it, but that's for another time. What is going to be discussed in the near future is, I guess call it plagiarism, I suppose, but Sammy boy, you had me inspired, and I'm also going to recommend an anime film. It is one that I think everyone here except Scott has seen at least once, but man oh man, I think we need to discuss it. And also, I believe, much like Metropolis, it deserves some much-needed love. Which, by the way, before I go into that, Metropolis, get it on Blu-ray. It looks fantastic. I am saying that now. Especially because it's not available on most streaming services. Please pick up the Blu-ray. I'm not sure if the Blu-ray contains that ending scene in the after credits. I hope so. I would think so. But, you know, I can't confirm that or not. But no, my recommended movie. It is a movie that I have revisited many times. And I would like to share with not only you guys, but also anybody listening. Back in the, what some people may consider the heyday of anime, in the 80s, you might already know where this is going, fellas.
No.
Some will say the 90s, but I say the 80s. It is an extravagant, colorful, and ever so memorable sci-fi space opera that could not be more 80s even if it tried.
Oh, geez,
Ladies and gentlemen, I am, of course, recommending Macross, Do You Remember Love?
The time has come, and so have I.
The time has come. I'm excited for this. It's a little bit of a cop-out because it is a film that I am very familiar with, but it is also a film that I think we should definitely dig into, because for as simple as it may come off, I think there's actually quite a bit to say about it. Also because there is some bad news and good news about it in terms of how available it is for North American audiences that we'll get into. The whole film can be viewed on YouTube. I recommend you watch the Japanese subtitled one, because the English dub is about as good as you can get in the 80s, which is bad.
So this is it.
Cycle.
This is it. This is the moment that Ian breaks out of his shell to show us the true mech fanboy inside.
Oh, yes. That is a side of me that I have not expressed enough. I am a big fan of mecha anime, and this...
You motherfucker.
Well, that's
And
good
soap
because my
operas.
recommendation is also mecha.
Oh my god,
very
it
cool.
begins. The lobster has come unshelled to reveal the beautiful butterfly inside. That's it, gentlemen. It's time to be honest. I think the audience deserves to know. We're weebs.
Oh god.
Yes.
How
We're
awful.
filthy
We are, in
weebs.
fact, weebs. I mean, we kind of outed ourselves when we were talking about JoJo, I think, twice now. So.
No, JoJo is multicultural.
Oh, that's
Of
true.
course.
That's true. Weebs
I mean-
don't enjoy JoJo, you know, class enjoys JoJo.
High connoisseurs enjoy JoJo.
Yes.
It is not
Well, anywho,
for
everybody.
normal weebs.
Fantastic discussion. Bit of a roller coaster of emotions, given what we started with, but frankly, I mean, this was good. A lot of fun. And again, go and watch Metropolis through whatever means you can, but preferably just buy it on Blu-ray if you are a fan of anime.
Or
Can't stop
VHS
loving
if
it.
you like that classic style. But anyway, that has been our insightful moment.
Indeed, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in, and take care.
Bye-bye.
Adios. B.
Bye.